Well, my current project is working on this old brace that I bought online, and it's a pretty nice brace, but the main problem is the bushing in the pad is just shot. It's got a ton of play in it. So I took it apart and discovered that the bushing is wood. When I tried to take it out, I grabbed a pair of needle nose and a chunk came out. I don't know how old that is, if that's the original or if it's been replaced before. I assume it's original. And I was going to put in a bronze bushing, but this stamped steel part here has got a taper to it. It's subtle, but it's you know, because it's stamped, it had to be tapered. So I decided I'd picked up some lignum, some 1x1 squares at Woodcraft, you know, a few years ago when I was in there and didn't know what I was going to use it for, and decided to just go ahead and make a wooden bushing. So I've already started that, and I've got a taper that will fit down in here. The next thing I have to do is figure out how long to make it, because this bell-shaped part goes over the top and it traps the bushing in there, so you don't have any in play. So I've got, and it's going to have to be rounded on the end to fit this piece. And then once that's done, there's a little, I don't know if you can see it here, there's a little nub that sticks up. This was originally just, the metal was just peened over the top of this. I had to take that off with a file. I think I've got enough material there to peen it one more time once the bushing's in, so I'm going to continue working on the bushing and see how it goes.
I left my home in the Georgia pine. I needed work, I didn't care what kind. My trouble starts when the whistle blows. It's the statue of life, way down in the hole. 12 tons of coal on a big iron sled. I work all day for a cold hard bed. Now heaven knows where heaven lies. There ain't no gold in a Tennessee mine. I miss my wife and my family. I dream at night of green grass and trees. My daughter's voice, that mountain home. But when I wake, I'm all alone. 12 tons of gold on big iron sled. I work all day for a cold hard bed. Now heaven knows where heaven lies. There ain't no gold in Tennessee mine.
Okay, I've got my bushing. It's pretty much a press fit. I've tapped it into the hole. It's nice and snug. It goes all the way to the bottom. And I've left it large on this end so I can chuck it up in the 3-jaw chuck on my metal lathe. And I need to bore a hole all the way through it that's about 400 thousandths that'll fit over this. So that'll be the next step. I purposely left this outside metal piece on the bushing while I was drilling it, because the actual walls, if you look at the old bushing, are pretty thin, so without some kind of an outside support, I don't think this thing would have survived being drilled. Well, the hole drilled pretty smoothly. Got it through. Now all I need to do is work on taking down the length and getting the shape right so that this little bell-shaped piece can go over it and capture the bushing between the two, so I don't have any end play in the pad. Well, it took 2 tries, but I finally got a good bushing, and it's got a really good fit on the handle. It won't have any slop in it. It turns nice and free. I went ahead and drilled the oil hole in the side so I can put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil in there to keep it lubed. The first one, before I shaped this end, where's my other part here, to fit this bell, I had drilled it first and then I tried to shape it afterwards. Well, that was a mistake. I knew better, but I thought I'd give it a shot. And of course the first one exploded. But you can tell once it's drilled, it's a pretty thin wall section. And when that part out here was hanging out unsupported with a hole in it, it didn't take much to get it catch, and it just blew up. So the second one I did entirely on the wood lathe. To drill it, after I had everything shaped and the length figured out, I went ahead and put this in the 4-jaw chuck. I set the lathe to its lowest speed. I went ahead and left the metal on the outside of it, drilled a 1/4-inch hole through it, and then drilled a 406 diameter hole after that, and that worked out just fine. It's got a real knife edge here, but that's not a problem. So that is the correct length, that when this sits in the cap, it just does sit this part flat against there where it'll screw down. And once that's on, of course it'll mount to the handle and it'll spin freely on it. So all in all, it was a pretty neat little project, and it's taken a really junky brace that everything else was fine on except for this, and should make it into a good user. The last step I almost forgot to show is to put this bell back on top here and then peen over this part. So this will be permanently attached to the brace, and then the handle, the pad will screw to that. I went ahead and put a little 3-in-1 oil inside the bushing and got it smeared around in there, and it spins nice and free. So once I get this thing peened on, we should be good. Hope I have enough material there to peen over. Okay, and there it is, all peened over, and got that little bell cap on there nice and tight. Everything still turns. I'll put the pad back on it, and I think this thing is done. Well, it's all back together. It's got a little bit of a tight spot. Turn it by hand's a little bit snug in one place, but when you're cranking it, you don't even notice the resistance, so it's not much. So, we'll give it a try and see how it looks.
The company man, he wants my soul. It ain't enough, everything I owe. Now when I die, my grave will fill with the Tennessee miner from the Georgia.
So even with an old, damaged and not too well sharpened bit, it does a good job, drills a nice straight hole. So I'm happy with that.